This is no way to win a war. Z-patriots are having a meltdown because once more things are going boom in Russia. And this time it's big, it's huge, in fact. Not only do we find out what it looks like to ignite roughly 30,000 tons of munitions, we get to see so called Russian patriots lose their minds over how their government fails to protect strategically significant military sites over and over again. The ecosystem of patriotic channels that nonetheless must exist within the restrictions defined by the Russian regime have been howling all day and saying that Russia's defeat is now almost inevitable. This is real hysteria born of rage, frustration, and fear. But what really rubs salt into the wounds it is that it is clearly Ukrainians achieving this with their own weapons. Propagandists can and do try to pin it on NATO, but this really does not wash anymore, given that it's plain for all to see how timid, cautious, and slow Western support really is. Everyone knows that now, that there is a soft appeasement in place, meaning that Western weapons cannot be used against air bases and launch sites that continue to rain death upon the Ukrainian people if they are located on the territory of Russia. The 107th Arsenal of the main missile and artillery directorate of the Russian armed forces was hit by drones. This may be the biggest single blow to a Russian ammunition depot during the entire course of the war, and it resulted in an explosion that was visible from space. The fire engulfed the entire territory of the arsenal. The warehouses could store up to 30,000 tons of varied ammunition. That does not mean, of course, that it was stocked to capacity when it was hit. We just don't know how much stuff was on site at the time. But munitions that it could have contained include 122 millimeter rocket munitions for Grad and 82 millimeter mortar shells. Missiles for S-300 and S-400 and for Iskanders could also have been stored at the arsenal. A stock of North Korean KN-23 may also have been stored at this site. Shells from the 107th Arsenal were directly delivered by rail to Kursk and Belgorod, and apparently the northern group of troops may well feel the consequences of this strike, and the job of soldiers fighting against Ukraine's incursions into Kursk may find their task is massively complicated by the loss of these ammunition reserves. Residents of the village of Tokarevo were trapped between the exploding warehouses and a lake, which incidentally resulted in some absolutely stunning videos being taken at the scene. These videos seem to show 4 epicenters of the explosion. People could potentially have been evacuated from there in theory, but there were not enough boats. The explosion was so powerful that windows were knocked out in a village up to 4 kilometers from the arsenal itself. At almost 4 o'clock, an earthquake with magnitude of 2.8 was registered. After that, there were 7 more tremors. That is how huge these explosions were. What's remarkable was that this arsenal was opened quite recently. In 2018, Deputy Defense Minister Dmitry Bulgakov opened it with great ceremony and said that this is an advanced complex with concrete storage facilities which would allow for the secure storage of ammunition. There is even a sauna and a cafe on the territory of the arsenal. That same Bulgakov is now sitting in the Butyrka prison for 2 months on apparently corruption charges. Local authorities ironically quoted from a video with Garrik Kharlamov, a Russian humorist, joking that everything is fine, everything is safe, there is no panic at all. All 6 million units of equipment, 20 million volunteers, 300 million Rosgvardia employees, 650 billion drones are fine. Everything is great. Everything is extinguished. There is no danger. The danger has been quashed and safety has prevailed. Well, the irony of that statement comes through loud and clear, as well as the mockery of the typically exaggerated pronouncements of the Russian Ministry of Defense. Here also is a fantastic example of this angry, whining, accusatory reaction of Z-patriots to the successful Ukrainian strike. Anastasia Uvarova, who writes, last night, the enemy blew up the largest arsenal of missiles of the Russian armed forces. How many lies and mistakes can you make? She writes. How many times have we heard the call not to panic? The war really is going like this. Those who sit with calm faces and watch these explosions going off, half dazed, well, perhaps they should panic, at least a little bit. The war is going on, and we have strike after strike. Bulgakov said that there was a block in the armory for 200 servicemen. How many died there? Judging by the explosions and footage, there was nothing left of the bodies. Why is no one really discussing this detail yet? She asks. They lie and they are wrong. They lie and they are wrong. How much can this go on, guys? Your brains and consciences have completely atrophied. Well, she has a point there. The authorities started lying straight away, of course. They tried to cover up the issue, to conceal the detonation of the largest arsenal of shells, the most modern arsenal for the integrated storage of missiles, ammunition, and explosives. Apparently, this facility met the highest world standards, according to the Russian military authorities, and at the same time was set off not by the direct hit of a Ukrainian drone, but by fragments of drones that were successfully shot down by Russian air defense. This, of course, stretches credulity to breaking point. Secondly, Rudenko said that the fire was under control. Is he watching the same footage that we are seeing? How can you control the detonation of munitions on this scale? Thousands and thousands of tons of munitions exploding simultaneously that create a sort of hell on earth. It is just farcical to make statements like this, of course. The arsenal was launched in 2018. Several hundreds of millions of rubles were spent on it, according to Deputy Minister Bulgakov, who, as I say, is now in jail. The construction was supposed to be of the highest order, using the best materials and the most secure structures. Who knows? In reality, perhaps it was just built from sticks and straw, and the bulk of the budget was stolen. The allocated funds probably were embezzled. The estimates were adjusted. The location of the arsenal was exposed in the media with the PR that was done by the Ministry of Defense, and the exact location of the arsenal, in any case, was recorded on Yandex Maps. There was apparently no increased security for transporting shells, despite its proximity to the border. In the third year of war, the kleptocracy and the idiocracy are still in place in Russia. This, of course, gives us some hope for Ukrainian victory. It won't be easy, but the ingrained cultures of lying, theft, nepotism, and indifference will ensure that Russia continues to make mistakes and to create opportunities for the Ukrainians to ruthlessly exploit.